Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro presided the creation of the National Council for Sovereignty and Peace. China opened the 12th Xianghsan Forum in Beijing, focusing on the international order and peace development. In Russia, the defense ministry reported that the armed forces attacked railway infrastructure storage facilities and drone launching sites in Ukrainian territory. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro presided over Tuesday the creation in Caracas of the National Council for Sovereignty and Peace. During the event's closing address, the Bolivarian head of state highlighted the importance of the council as another step to strengthen the unity of all Venezuelans to defend the nation's sovereignty and peace. Maduro accused the United States government of carrying out what he described as a multifaceted war against the Bolivarian nation, violating all international laws. The president also affirmed the majority of Venezuelan people rejects Washington's military threats and reiterated that the country's internal problems are settled by Venezuelans through a dialogue based on the Constitution. Also in Venezuela, the National Electric Corporation issued a statement announcing a new terrorist attack against two of the main transmission lines. Through the document, the agency declared the following: "This extremist aggression seeks to deprive the Venezuelan people of electricity as part of a fascist strategy aimed at destabilizing the peace and national unity that will prevail in the face of external threats." It also emphasized that, as denounced by the President of the Republic, Nicolás Maduro Moros, these attacks constitute a manifestation of electrical warfare promoted by groups that operate in the service of obscure interests and destabilizing agendas. Their objective is clear: to destroy national harmony in a scenario in which the North American empire threatens sovereignty with an escalation of war and psychological warfare. And Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez sent letters to 7 international organizations related to commercial fishing, denouncing the illegal and aggressive U.S. assault of a Venezuelan flag fishing vessel with a Navy destroyer on September 12, 2025. In the letter, the Venezuelan Vice President pointed out, "As you can see, the use of a missile ship and military commando personnel against a civilian fishing vessel is clearly a disproportionate act. It violates the rules and principles governing maritime navigation control operations and undermines the free exercise of fishing activities. It also violates the human rights of the 9 fishermen involved, including their rights to freedom and personal integrity." The letter goes on: "Venezuela has a long-standing tradition of fishing in the Caribbean Sea, both artisanal and industrial, as well as a significant fishing fleet and a solid processing and marketing chain for its products. Therefore, it considers unacceptable that its productive activity and economic development should be hindered by unjustified operations that are clearly contrary to the law." The letter concludes saying, "In view of the aforementioned, I appear before you to put on record this serious violation committed by the authorities of the United States of America and, at the same time, to request a firm condemnation of this act of aggression against Venezuelan fishermen. All of this in order to protect the rights of fishermen and the lawful exercise of fishing activities." And the government of Colombia denounced Tuesday that the United States is using the desertification of countries cooperating in its so-called war against drugs as a political pressure to interfere in its internal affairs. In a statement on X, President Gustavo Petro said Washington wanted a puppet president in Colombia and affirmed that the Colombian people will decide if they want a corrupt government like that of Panama or one which defends national sovereignty. Petro's statement comes after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called Colombia's fight against drugs as erratic. The president also questioned the moral legitimacy of the United States in imposing labels on other nations, pointing out that Washington has not reduced the consumption of cocaine and fentanyl in its own society. And in the United Kingdom, hundreds demonstrated on Tuesday night in front of Windsor Castle to reject the arrival of U.S. President Donald Trump. The protests against the second official visit of the U.S. president were accompanied by projections of photographs of Trump with Jeffrey Epstein on the walls of the castle, where he will be received by the British royal family. The images also included photographs with UK's Prince Andrew and a recently surfaced birthday letter from the U.S. president to the tycoon. Their security forces reportedly dispersed the demonstration and arrested 4 participants on suspicion of malicious communications. Trump's close relationship with Epstein, a businessman accused of leading a network of child trafficking, has become a political thorn in the president's side as he has tried to get attention away from the case. And China urged the United States and Japan to withdraw the Typhoon missile system deployed in Japan as soon as possible, as the installation of this weapon system poses a substantial threat to regional strategic security. Despite China's concerns, both nations insisted on deploying the missile system in a neighboring country, claiming it was for joint exercises and training. The deployment of the missile system by the U.S. in an Asian nation harms security and increases risk of an arms race and military confrontation in the region. In this regard, the Chinese spokesperson Lin Jian argued that the United States and Japan must respect the security concerns of other countries, respond to the requests of countries in the region, and correct their erroneous practices. And on Tuesday, a Philippine ship deliberately attacked one of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels near the Scarborough Shoal, a disputed territory claimed by both countries. The Chinese government stated that the Navy had taken surveillance measures against what it described as an illegal invasion of territorial waters. For its part, the Philippine Coast Guard reported that a crew member was injured by a water cannon fire at the boat. This incident occurred amid frequent confrontations between the two countries over control of the maritime territory surrounding Xianghsan Island, where more than 60% of world's maritime trade passes. We have a first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. China opened the 12th Xianghsan Forum in Beijing, focusing on the international order and peaceful development. The event began on Wednesday with the presence of delegations from at least 100 countries and the presentation of 6 high-level dialogues, focusing on the lessons of the anti-fascist World War for contemporary peace. According to the official agenda, the sessions and high-level dialogues will include topics such as the direction of relations between the great powers and urgent calls for reform in a global governance system. The 3-day meeting aims to protect the international order and promote joint development in the Pacific. In Guatemala, the National Coordinator for Disaster Reduction, CONRED, reported that there have been 23 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. The strongest quake reached 2.8 on the Richter scale, but the data reflects the constant activity of earthquakes in the country, which highlights the importance of being prepared for more powerful ones. Although no damage has been reported, it recommends keeping the family response plan in mind, preparing a 72-hour backpack, standing next to columns, and staying away from windows, shelves, and stairs. Data from the National Institute of Seismology, Volcanology, Meteorology, and Hydrology show that from the beginning of 2025 to this Tuesday, there have been over 8,200 seismic events so far this year. Meanwhile, in Brazil, former President Jair Bolsonaro was ordered by the 3rd Regional Court to pay the equivalent of almost $180,000 for causing collective moral damage with his racist statements in 2021. The unanimous ruling also requires Bolsonaro to remove discriminatory and intolerant content from his social media accounts and to issue a public apology to the community of people of African ancestry. For its part, the 3rd Chamber of the Federal Regional Court made the decision unanimously and considered the far-right politician engaged in so-called recreational racism. It should be noted that Bolsonaro faces a sentence of 27 years and 3 months in prison for leading a coup plot to try to prevent the inauguration of the current President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. Also in Brazil, hundreds of civil construction workers decided to start an indefinite strike in the city of Belém in the north of the country. 2 months before COP30, the United Nations Climate Change Summit, work will be suspended in the areas where the meeting will take place, driven by discontent with wage adjustments which are considered insufficient. Trade unions are calling on workers to participate in a general strike, accompanied by days of protest amid criticism of the high cost of the event, which increases tension as the countdown to COP30 continues. And in Paraguay, student organizations mobilized in protest against the presence of Argentina's President Javier Milei in the country to participate in the Conservative Action Policy Conference and to protest against his privatization policies.
One of the issues we reject at the political level is the policy of adjustment, which is not the solution, is not the way forward, and is not in line with our reality at the national level. And at the level of education, clearly the pursuit of privatization is not a fundamental issue, nor can it be carried out in our country. You are going to encourage a boy from the interior or someone who cannot even access education. We could not accept President Milei's actions, which would be the desire to privatize the National University of Asunción. We are against that, which is why we are mobilizing today.
In Mexico, 17 people have lost their lives following the explosion of a gas tanker on September 10th. The local health department reported that so far 31 people have been discharged from healthcare centers and 35 remain hospitalized, including a 2-year-old girl. In the last 24 hours, 2 more people have died as a result of the incident that occurred on September 10th on the Concordia Bridge. According to initial investigations by the Mexico City Attorney General's office, the accident that led to the gas tank explosion was caused by the driver's lack of technical skill. In addition, the driver was speeding, which caused the vehicle to overturn and subsequently be consumed by fire. In other news, in Jamaica, 33-year-old Andrew Holness was sworn in as Prime Minister for the 3rd consecutive time after winning the elections held on September 3rd in the Caribbean country. The ceremony took place at the King's House, the government office in Kingston, with the attendance of leaders and heads of states from the Caribbean. During his speech, he referred to the country's culture and sports and promised to build an economy that offers opportunities for all while committing to making Jamaica the safest society in the Caribbean. It's worth noting that under Holness' leadership, Jamaica has seen a 43% drop in murders so far this year, which represents the most significant decline in decades, and it is largely attributed to the increase in firearm seizures by the current administration. And this Tuesday, in the Republic of Malawi, the counting of votes began for the general elections in which the president, legislators, and local councillors will be elected. Amidst a period of economic turmoil in the country, over 7 million registered voters turned out to the polls, while the Malawi Electoral Commission is under close scrutiny to ensure free and fair elections. In these elections, the current president, Lazarus Chakwera, is once again facing his rival, former President Peter Mutharika, after the last elections in 2020. Vote counting began late on Tuesday afternoon, and according to the law, the results must be announced within a week of the election date. We have our second functional break coming up. We invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow the operation and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A functional break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that the armed forces attacked railway infrastructure, storage facilities, and drone launching sites on Ukrainian territory. The Russian ministry reported that between Tuesday night and Wednesday, Ukrainian troops suffered up to 1,500 military casualties, lost a tank, 14 armored combat vehicles, railway infrastructure, and a drone depot in 149 strategic areas of Kiev. In addition, the Russian anti-aircraft force shot down approximately 357 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles over regions of the Federation. These actions take place at a critical stage in Ukraine due to the lack of combat reserves. The Israeli occupation army has been bombing, invading and sieging for 711 days as part of its expansionist plan to take over Palestinian territory. Following the announcement of a large-scale operation, the occupation army is continuing a military operation with the participation of 2 divisions of its soldiers in Gaza, intensifying ground raids in the north and east of the city in the face of continuous attacks on residential areas and civilian buildings. In this regard, the Gaza Ministry of Health has recorded more than 64,964 deaths, while the number of injured stands at 165,312 since October 7, 2023. Also in the last 24 hours, 3 deaths from starvation and malnutrition have been recorded, bringing the total to 425 deaths, including 145 children. And the Hashemite charity organization of Jordan reported that the humanitarian campaign led by the kingdom delivered more than 119,000 metric tons of aid to the Palestinian people in Gaza. According to the organization's latest report, as of September 10th, 8,480 trucks with humanitarian aid had entered Gaza by land convoys, while Jordanian Air Force, in coordination with the allied countries, carried out 400 joint airdrops and another 164 exclusively Jordanian ones. In addition to land and air transport, deployed community initiatives within the enclave, including mobile bakeries with the capacity to produce up to 40,000 loaves of bread per day. And Egypt's Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli stated that the country has a clear plan to deal with any repercussions from the situation in the Palestinian territories. The Prime Minister warned that Egypt will not under any circumstances allow the displacement of the Palestinians or the liquidation of the Palestinian cause. Madbouli emphasized that the government is closely monitoring projects that seek to impose the so-called Greater Israel and is preparing plans to confront this threat. The leader underlined the need to strengthen public awareness of the challenges and warned of attempts to redesign the regional map, which are directly targeted at Egypt. And Pope Leo XIV shared on Wednesday a message of solidarity with Palestinians, renewing his call for a ceasefire in Gaza.
I express my deep solidarity with the Palestinian people in Gaza, who continue to live in fear and endure unacceptable conditions. Forced once again to leave their lands, before the Almighty Lord who commanded, "Thou shalt not kill," and in the presence of all human history, every person always has an inviolable dignity to respect and preserve. I renew the call for a ceasefire, the release of hostages, a negotiated diplomatic solution, and full respect for international humanitarian law. I invite everyone to join my heartfelt prayer, so that a dawn of peace and justice may soon rise,
affinché sorga presto un'alba di pace e di giustizia.
And on Tuesday, Venezuela had a roundtable titled Palestine Resists, Voices, Stories and Bridges of Solidarity to further denounce the genocide perpetrated by Israel in the Gaza Strip. The discussion took place at Pueblo's Institute for Original Thought, where the leader of the Platform of Solidarity with the Palestinian Cause, Hindu Anderi, supported the battle for human rights around the world. The participants called upon the international community not to trivialize evil and to pressure the governments of Israel and the United States to end the genocide that has killed more than 64,000 Palestinians. In this context, the discussion highlighted that the Zionist expansion project is further fueling the flames of racism and Nazism. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.